Let me just sort this out. Good evening, Sophie. Welcome, my darling. Let me just sort this out. Then I can swap to sorting out what's going on. I can make sure that's got sorted. Sophie, could you just tell me that you can hear everything all right, my darling? Now I can't see the comments on my phone, so let me just resort that. Hi, Jill. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Jam. Welcome. That's lovely. Lovely. If you could just, while I retrieve the bits I've thrown on the floor, or maybe I didn't need it. There we are. We'll shuffle that over there. So you could just let me. Thank you, Sophie. Much appreciated. Good evening, Elizabeth. Hi, hi to everyone on a very windy and very blowy day, and I'll apologise up front if it gets noisy because I'm not too sure what the weather has in store for us this evening. Hello, Juliana. Welcome, welcome. So I'm now doing weekly lives for Pantart, which is a real honour and a privilege. And they have a sort of suggested scheme of products, ideas that they put forward for us for each month. And so sometimes you'll see something and I'm making it and think, that's an interesting make for you. And sometimes I'll go completely off piste, but that's just part of life. So let me just move some of this collection of assorted stuff out the way just while I reset where I'm up to, because there's an awful lot of clutter and gubbins on this desk at the moment, and there's an awful lot of stuff on this piece of plywood that I'm actually using. So let's get rid of those bits. As ever, I've had a little play ahead of time because that helps me get my brain together. It lets me sort out a little bit about where I'm going and lets me have a little bit of play with colour as well, which is always a good idea. So one of the suggested themes for this month, in that sort of in-between period between Easter and maybe was wanting to do full on summer makes, is this idea that we might do something with a thinking about maybe weddings. Well, I don't actually have any weddings coming up, but we all have people that we love. Yeah, there we are. Hopefully we've now retrieved all this and that we maybe need to celebrate. So, and we all have anniversaries and the like. So I just thought we would have a little bit of a play. Hi, Sue. Hi, Margaret. Welcome, welcome. So I am very conscious that I've got a heart here that's approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, approximately 8 inches at its widest point. And it's not primed because I'm layering. And I'm just going to add onto here some vintage brown, which is a milk chocolatey sort of ish colour. We're going to be layering on top of this. I'm not worried if this ends up a little patchy. Most of it's not going to be visible, so it doesn't really, it's not going to matter long term from that point of view. And I'm just going to give this a little coat of paint before we carry on and adding things. So I do hope everyone is well. The wind is decidedly getting up. I can hear that it's becoming quite noisy here, but that's life. So let's just pop this over. We got a little bit of drying. I've done some prep already. I think that's cool, and we're mixing all sorts of elements into this paint. Fairly typical of a make that I tend to do, mixing up my mediums, mixing up products, hopefully stuff that you'll be easily able to find, or easily able to substitute if that's, if you can't get the exact non-pent art mediums that I'm using today. So things like the faux flowers and things, but they are reasonably, everything is reasonably easily available. So there we are. Good evening, Liz. Welcome. Thanking you. So this is a very pretty brown. It's called vintage brown. Pentacolor have a range of vintage colours, and so I'm using at least one more of them as well for this make. I couldn't find a vintage lilac, but they do a vintage yellow, which is it's pretty vintage green. Lots of pretty colours. So let's just get this covered over here. And whilst I've got brown paint on my brush, and whilst this is wet and needing to dry, I am going to paint a mold. So this mold is by Stamperia. It's from Atelier d'Arts collection. I've given it a coat with bonding primer. It may not have covered it brilliantly well looking at this. It's a bit patchy, but that's fine. The reason I prime my stuff is that I cast with resin because I like the fact that they're solid. But also, and then the bonding primer really needs to have 24 hours to dry before you disturb it and start painting on it. So for me, it's just a pragmatic approach. And also painting white on white resin is maybe not such an interesting set of viewing. We might need to do 2 coats here. As I say, I think there are some areas where I didn't actually pay enough attention with the bonding primer, but hey ho, we'll work with it. If I wasn't doing the live, I would repaint it with more bonding primer and walk away and let it dry better. Hello Betty, welcome from the US. Did you see your eclipse yesterday or not? Hello B, welcome. Lovely to see Crafty Jacks online as well. Let's just pop a little bit of that onto there. I'm conscious when I pop it on my mat and then wipe it up, it's maybe not the most environmentally friendly thing to do, so we'll try and minimize doing that. We'll add onto here. It's not, again, we're going to be adding some layers, so we might end up needing another coat of this, and that's absolutely cool. I don't have any problem with that. As I say, it'll be user error because I can definitely see areas where I didn't get the bonding primer into all of the nooks and crannies of this. And I picked this particular mold because of the sentiment on the frame, and it will also fill quite a large area of my piece, which I think for this one will work quite well. And I've actually built up my sentiment using this one with the word love, and also 2 other words that I think came from the You and Me collection from last year. But just have a hunt around in your stash of things and see what you've got and see where words will work together for you. That's because I've put my hand on that, so let's just so there's lots of little nooks and crannies on this mold because of the text. So let's just get this covered, and then we'll give these a blast dry, and I can do the next step on the heart shape, because that's also, there we are, just getting to, it's nothing worse than finding that you've missed bits when you're working. As you move stuff around, just make sure you've looked at everything from lots of different angles. I can see a bit there that's not exactly covered, and as I say, I might need to add some more. There we are, another. So that can go there. I'm just going to lid that for the moment. Good evening, Jenny. Ginny, welcome. Hello, Joe. Hello, Elizabeth. Isabella. I think that's probably how we say that. So let me just grab a heat gun and give these a wee with dry, and so I can then just knock that bit of paint up before we move on to our next steps with what we're going to do. Hello, Caroline. Welcome. Good evening, Anthony. Wow, enjoy the walk. I'm glad you've got weather that's suitable for a walk, because it certainly isn't suitable for a walk in Manchester at the moment. It's trying to blow a hoolie, and it's definitely been intermittently raining cats and dogs all day. So absolutely wild. And it's got lots of ladies that people online tonight. So if I haven't acknowledged your presence, please don't be offended. I don't always see every comment come in, particularly when my head is down crafting. Obviously, whilst this is drying, I can actually look at my second camera and see and talk to you. But a lot of the time, if I'm not looking at the camera, as you can see that my head's down, I won't necessarily see your comments. So I apologise up front. Well, Anthony, I think that would be very, very wise to take advantage. I don't think we have any clue as to quite how long things will or won't last, will they? So let's just give these all a good dry, and we'll I need to do this because I need to put there for the next steps, because my projects are generally about lots of layering. Tuesdays is going to be Tuesdays to chill for Pentacolor for the foreseeable future, unless I'm on holiday or anything else is going on in my world. So if people would like to message me or just let me know if they've got projects that they'd like me to try and show them how to use within the context of a project, because the live will be project based, then please feel free to do so. You could you just put a comment or tag me into a post or message me, and I won't promise when I'll get round to doing it, but I will. I can then hopefully work my lives around things that might work for you. Yes, Betty, you've had quite a lot of vile weather out in your part of the US, haven't you? There we are. So that's that bit dry. This one isn't dry, so let's just give this a dry, because I'm going to do the same treatment on both of them. I'm hoping it will work and won't make a mess, but hey ho, we will soon find out. Nothing like that doing things on a live, is it? But there we are. They're products that I've used many times, because I'm sure it will work. Because I think the solid brown is too overpowering for my overall piece. I just need the depth of this to dry. Hello, Alison. Welcome. What biscuits have you got tonight, Sophie? I take it that means you haven't been in your kitchen baking muffins today. My lovely husband's been out to the opticians and come back having spent a small fortune on new glasses. I don't know why, but every time you go to the opticians, you end up with a bill for new glasses, don't you? Very expensive. Not quite drying the depths. Let's just turn that off, and we will add the next system. So I'm intending using a rice paper that's got a very pale background, and as you can see, it's sort of got some browny text on it. And if I pop this on here, it's very difficult then to pick up the text and the details and the cracks. And so apart from where I've got that nice big thick fiber, when it's much easier. So I clearly don't want this to be brown at this point. I don't know that it's the glasses that are the pricey bit. I think it's the flipping, it's the lenses, particularly as you get older and you need something that's much, more expensive. So I am going to be using the cracking paint system. The cracking paint system comes with white, ivory, Victorian pink, a beautiful country green, a blue, a muted red, and a brown as well. So lots of different options for this. If you haven't got it, then get you can use the cracking paste and then just colour it to suit yourself with anything that's pigment dense. So some mica powders would work, or pigment paste will work, or if push comes to shove, a little bit of acrylic or media ink, so inky stuff will work too. Just it means that you don't always have to use white for your for that 3D cracking effect, or use the one component crackle and just use ordinary paint. This gives a thicker crackle because it is definitely a thicker top there than using ordinary acrylic paint. So, but you just get used to the effects that your different products give to you, and then you can choose the end result that you want, or use what you have and be happy with that, because it's thinner than the cracking paste, and there's lots and lots of different versions of cracking meat products, Sophie. So the 3D cracking, I like the cracking paste. It's what I used last week on a live. So let's just give this a coat. I had a feeling that hadn't all dried, but hey ho, that's also fine. You don't need to put cracking mediums onto a flat surface. And I'm deliberately wanting a shabby effect tonight. So that's going to work for me. There we are. Let's just get this all covered. Where there isn't primer, it won't crackle, and that's fine. And I'm not worried about if I get an uneven effect, particularly because we'll add some dry brushes over. Oops, sorry if that's made anyone seasick. To get the size image that I'm working with requires me to move my camera off its normal camera stand for use with StreamYard, but it does mean that I've got a nice surface area to work with. So that can go there, and I'm really sorry, but we're going to go back to drying because I haven't got a heater on. Deliberately, and actually the primers go on white and will dry clear. So that's just what we need to do. Let me just pop the lid onto that so it doesn't go thick and gloopy, because it will with time if it's allowed out, particularly in the summer. And so yes, I do know a great big crackle. I wouldn't say I'm master of all of them, but I have lots of experience with lots of different crackle mediums, and so I know that they are not all created equal. I'm deliberately moving my heat gun about. If you don't, then your primer, your first layer, your step one, will bubble, and it interferes with the results. So we just need to be aware and move it around perfectly. So we have a lovely lady who has joined us from Greece, I think. So I can't acknowledge you by name, a lovely lady, or I'm assuming you're a lady, but welcome to my live. I am aware of what you've written in Greek, purely because my phone is set to auto-translate to make my life easy. And I don't think there's anyone else that's Greek that's watching. But if you struggle with any of the techniques or mediums, then my good friend Vasilis Kontos is Greek, and he should be able to help you. And talking about Vasilis, he is live tomorrow, no, Thursday, at 6 o'clock UK time. So I think that would be 5 o'clock in Greek time. And I think he's doing some furniture upcycling from what he said. So yeah, there's only one way of doing this, and that is to do all of these layers bit by bit by bit. So we know where we're up to with everything. So there we are. And we just have to wait for it is drying slowly, or not so slowly. It always seems like forever when you're waiting for paint to dry, doesn't it? But I do need to get these dried for the next step. So this is a painful part of the process. If I try and just put my second layer over the top of that, then it will be, it will just shift and move everything. But as you can see, it is drying. Anthony, I fancy New York cheesecake. Yummy, yummy. I like a good baked cheesecake. Nice, proper, heavy, dense baked cheesecake. Yummy, yummy. Not too fond of some of the others, but a good baked cheesecake that's much denser than the gelatine set ones. I'm a real fan of. And no need to apologise, Deirdre. You're welcome at any time. All I have done is put a base coat of vintage brown onto a plywood heart shape, dried that off, and I'm currently drying step 1 of Pentart's cracking paint system. So this product. There we are. And on the mould, it's a resin mould that I have primed with a well-loved bottle of bonding primer, painted again with the vintage brown acrylic paint matte, and then added the cracking paint primer over the top of that. So yeah, we're getting there. You want the whole cheesecake. Now, Anthony, is that a little 6-inch one, a moderate size 8-inch one, or a whacking great big 12-inch one that you want to eat the whole of? Because eating a whole 12-inch one would definitely be downright greedy, and it would certainly make me feel more than a little poorly. Yeah. Good evening, Sarah. Welcome, my darling. Welcome, welcome. It's nice to see familiar faces and names coming in. Might get away with that. Might get away with that. This one would be a bit harder because I've got stuff in the nooks and the crannies of here. So let me just give it a little bit more of a bursty dry. The thinner areas have dried. Nearly there. Some of this is going to be covered, it's less of a problem. When would I use bonding primer and when would I use gesso? Very good question, Caroline. So my choice would be to use bonding primer when I'm working with something that is non-porous. So I would prime glass, plastic, metal and resin with bonding primer. I would always add a layer and then let it dry, and then add a second layer. And it's definitely one of those products, it's better, you know, leave it to dry naturally. So do it the evening before and then come back to do it. So the bonding primer is for non-porous surfaces. For porous surfaces, then I would use gesso or an acrylic primer, depending on what I'm going to pop on over the top. So this is the cracking paint system, and you can see it is paint-like rather than a paste. And that's one of the reasons why I've chosen this. Don't overwork over it. And I'm not mithered tonight about having a textured effect, but you can get a completely smooth surface if that's what you want. And you can go back over if you, unlike the one component crackle, if it hasn't started to crackle, it will work quite well for you. And I'm just making sure my brush is reasonably well loaded. You can see that I'm able to go back over, and we'll pop that over, and I'm not lifting up. And you wouldn't see me doing this with the one component crackle at all, because I would be really worried about lifting everything off the surface. There we are. So please feel free to ask any questions that you want. That's, you know, that's the whole purpose of having the lives, apart from hopefully providing some inspiration for a project, because you're welcome to lift any of the ideas as you know, from any of the Pentacolor creative teams lives, and use them for your own projects. But we're also here to educate you about the products, and so if you've got questions, then please just ask away and let us know what you want to know, and we will always, if we see the questions, and that's never quite guaranteed on a live, come back and answer them for you. So there we are. As I say, I'm deliberately wanting a shabby effect here. So while I've got that out, actually I'm not going to do it with that, because I'll stop with that one, and we can pop that over there. That can go in there. I'm just going to sit those just out of the way over there. Oops, she says she's put a hand in it already. That's always helpful. That's going to be covered by other things. Anyway, hello, Robinson. Welcome, my darling. So this is ivory. This is actually beige acrylic paint mat that I'm going to pick up here. And this is a mold from You and Me collection, so the last year's wedding collection, but it's still available because it was promoted when the Precious collection was bought out earlier on this year. So I'm just going to give this a layer of that, and then I'll get the heat gun out again, because that's just part of life. There we are. So hopefully we've got all around the corners of that. So that can go over there. That can go over there. We will be getting that. And what are you back on antibiotics, my darling? You are having a rough time, aren't you? So let's just clear some of this out of the way so I don't end up in a pickle. And then I can see the crackles forming, but I'll lift this up when it's dry. And this is going to give me a cracking paste type crackle, but much smaller than the cracking paste, because it's the paint. And I will lift it up in a minute when the edge is not so dry. Yeah. I can pop that up. So if I lift that up, there we are, you can see, and we can watch that bit where it's squelched and put your fingers, it's going to get covered anyway. So if we just watch, you'll be able to see this cracking as it goes. There we are. Thicker areas will give me a thicker crackle. The thin areas a very raised effect. There we are. So it just is a fabulous, fabulous crackle medium. And as I say, it's very, very user friendly because you can go back over it, providing you paint over it before the cracks feel. So yeah, which is it is very helpful. Let me just feed all of those comments, make sure I'm not missing anyone. Thank you. There we are. And we'll just watch these. I know, is it well, it's a bit like watching watch pot never dry, never boils, isn't it? But in this case, I'm wanting you to see how it's cracking in front of you. There we are. So there we are. Let's just pop that over there, and we'll watch that one crack in front. I'm needing to do this because I'm going to add some decoupage over the top. So let me just crackle this frame now. But I think it would be interesting, because when you think about, a lot of the old masters frames, they're varnished, but they're crackled, aren't they? Often have crackled. This, my darling, Faith, is the cracking paint system. This one comes as step 1 and step 2, rather than cracking paste. And cracking paste comes generally in white, and it's really thick, or black. Good evening, Patricia. Welcome, my darling. Welcome, welcome. There we are. So that, I think, is giving me. If I lift this up, let me let that focus in, so I can see that I've got amazing crackles on here. Need to get that dry, but this looks appealing. So I've got the brown popping through, and that was what I wanted. I didn't want it to be a perfect area. There we are. I'm going to pop that over. Thank you, Patricia. It's much appreciated. So I've then got a rice paper from Stamperia. This is a single A4 sheet of rice paper, but it wasn't. If you put the two edges together, you can see that it wouldn't cover the whole frame. So my method of dealing with that is generally to tear it diagonally and then do that. Let's pop that up the right way, and then I can slide it. So if we look here, you can see I've got one edge here and one here, so which tells you how much I've offset it. And I'm going to probably try and save that border up there. And I've got a lovely bird here. I'm not too worried how much of that rose is showing. Did want a little bit of the bird to be on display. I'm going to pop this down, pop that on there, and I'm not at I know that I just need to take that off there a little bit, because I'm going to pop this mold into here, and if I don't offset that, I'm going to struggle to have both my birds visible. There we are. So that's approximately where we're going to go. Now we'll take that half on, half off, and that just helps. And then I can pop an extra bit of rice paper into there if I want to, or not, as I go. Okay, so I've got a sort of approximate placement with where I'm going. And on my desk, it is a beautiful rice paper. It's a Stamperia rice paper, and it comes from the Precious Journal collection. So again, it's a rice paper that should be relatively easy to get hold of. And I've got some decoupage glue and varnish mat, and the joy of this is that it is going to allow me to glue this down and seal it in place. So a good layer of that over there, let's just pop that into there, and I'm not worried about some of the bird hanging off the edge, and then I can just pop that into here, and I can see that the crackles through my rice paper, and actually, you know, I'm beginning to blur that boundary. So there we are. So let's just pop that over here, and we'll put some of this onto here. Go for this. It's a matte medium. I've used matte surface. I don't need to worry too greatly about the rest of it. So there we are. Let's just pop this, the big mold, back into place so that I know that I'm not covering my bird too much. I'm going to tuck him over there. We might pop him over there a bit. There we are. And if we lose him, well, so be it. There we are. And we'll just seal this all in. Pop that into there. Give this a good seal. There we are. Over there. And I can pop that now onto my chair behind, and that can dry. So that was just my rice paper being added with the decoupage glue and varnish. There we are, and that can go in there. And let's just have a little clean up of this almighty mess. Because the mess is distracting, and it's going to be easier to scrape at least some of it off out of the way. Hopefully it's not setting anyone's teeth on edge by doing this. There we are. But it will mean that I have less risk of contaminating things as we go. Excellent. Let's just wipe that. We can dust that. Again, I'm trying to behave and not use masses and masses of baby wipes again, because it's not uber environmentally friendly. And then from the Precious collection, so we've used Atelier des Arts, we've used You and Me, and then we've got some florals from the Precious collection. So really mixing, you know, mixing some of these up, and most of the purpley tone is going to disappear. So I've just got some acrylic paint matte. That is compact powder. There'll be way too much of that out. I apologize. And then this one, because that is too beigey almost, is called Punch, and it's a real pop. There we are. I'll pop that there. And then we can give that a little wipe. And then we're going to mix these together on here. So we're just going to give this a typical My Style painting. We don't want it all the same colour. So we'll add the compact powder, and then we're going to add, and we're going to mix the two in, and that's fine because that's what we want to do. And I'm not going to have a true colour for any of those by the time I've finished. It's all going to be a bit mixed up, and that's totally and utterly intentional. There we are. I'll turn that so that we can get into the edges of there quite happily. There we are. And no harsh lines this way either. Nature doesn't provide harsh lines, does she? So why would I want harsh lines and things? And I have already done a couple of these already, because again, you don't need to see everything being repeated 2,500 times. Much as I enjoy painting, the lives become too painful when those are, yeah. What's Sophie? There we are. So my suggestion is that you think carefully when you're buying your molds and have a look at them and then think, how many uses per am I going to get out of that mold? Is it so specific that it can really, or so big that it can really only be used in one way for one thing? Yes, you can change the colours, but a very big themed mold is essentially going to always be a very big themed mold, and therefore will limit the numbers of uses or projects that you can possibly use it on. And so, I say that's my personal suggestion, is that you think carefully about those, and and that makes life a bit easier. So whilst those give a little bit of a dry, at the start I had this piece, and that is going to ultimately sit on there. And at the moment, the words are really not very visible on that piece at all. So we're going to do something about that now. And we need just the tiniest bit of that. Oh, she says, I'll pop that into there. And now we've got that on our hands, because that's really what we want, isn't it? Let's just give that one a blast dry, because we're going to do the same with this piece in a minute as well. So I'll give that a little blast. Let that settle down a bit. And then I have a fairly coarse scrubby brush, and I'm just going to load that with some of that brown, and then I'm going to offload it so that my brush is almost dry, and then I can just bring back the little text you won't be able to see, but now my word love is beginning to show through. There we are. And this is the vintage brown that I've used earlier on. There we go. And it's just allowing those words and things to pop through in a shabby way. And the key to dry brushing is to layer up. So I'm hitting it one direction, and I'll now hit it the opposite direction. But the words that were not so, the love, which is the dominant word I want to see, which wasn't very obvious before, and I've brought back in all of that detail in that mold. And let me just give this a little bit more blast dry, because I want to add some to that as well. And it's going to be easy to do it. Yeah. So this is where I'm planning. So love, you and me. So we're building our layers into the colour. And I guess I could have chosen ivory for this, but I've just felt that it would all become too samey if I just did exactly the same. There we are. And hopefully that one is now going to be dry enough to maybe. So let's just bring out the details in this mold. I might need a bit more of that. My brush is now so dry, but that's okay. Do I leave dipping paint to dry over? Do you mean the black dipping paint that you use with the chrome powders, Sheila? And which, if so, then yes, I do leave that. Just hang whatever. It will carry on dripping for quite a bit. So let me just knock off most of that, because I've got way too much on there for the little bit that I'm going to use, but hey ho. And this is, as I say, it's a nice coarse brush. There we are, that's better. You can add, but it's actually much harder to take off. And I'm going to add a little bit of wax anyway. There we are. So we've now got love, you and me, better together. Hence the title of the project. Does that make sense? Oh, Anya, just be careful and look after yourself, my darling. That's the most important thing. And now, before we don't end up with a mess, I really am going to have to wipe this up with a baby wipe. And B, if you're still watching, I am hanging them up over my ring light to dry, so that I will ultimately use them in a different project. Don't need that. That little lot can all come up. There we are. Pop that up there. We'll open that out and we'll stick it over our ring light. And then we'll straighten our mat, because I can see that I've drifted. That won't affect anything. There we are. And we can pop that over there. There we are. We'll just move that down. So now you can sort of see where I'm going. And I've got some tonal variation. I do now need, let us see if we're dry. We're going to give this a little bit of a dry as we get those dried as well. It's all beginning to come together. They're very nice molds, my darling. And in the US, Miniature Luxuries will have them, I think, my darling. Let's just make sure that is properly dry. You can't really sand rice paper until it is properly dry around the edges. And I am going to add some more detailing onto this piece anyway. And I need to get this dry before I can sand it. And I need to add some colours to here. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful wedding-esque paper, but I guess it could also be used for confirmations, first Holy Communions, depending on, you know, on what you do or don't celebrate, I guess. I'll put those over there. I'm going to come back to those painting in a minute anyway. And I must have, I always have sandpaper on my desk. I don't have sandpaper on my desk. Well, that's really very rude. There we are. It's because it'd be on the floor. Here we are. So we're just going to, if you haven't got, if you want a relatively low, high grit sandpaper, let's pour some wet paint on the edges that are there. Not a low grit one. You might have to work harder, but you'll not damage your paint surface underneath if you use a high grit sandpaper. Yeah, so that's come off there beautifully. The scraps can be used for another project, quite helpful. It is a very beautiful crackle. I never get bored of it. The crackle is, the pentart crackle is the reason for my pentart addiction, and as we all know, I absolutely have a pentart addiction. There is no other way of describing my relationship with pentart products other than being an addiction. And I'm deliberately, I am taking my sandpaper off. I'm not scrubbing up and down. You know, I'm very definitely going almost at a 45-degree angle, like that, as I come down, because it helps push that edge of that rice paper onto the surface as I do so. Which is again quite a nice way of securing stuff in place. And yes, I can still see the edge of my rice paper, but it's really not that obtrusive now. And I've still got some wet decoupage glue over there. I can feel that it's still wet. Yeah. Let's just come into there and we'll take that off. So I know that we're going to pop that there, and we're going to pop that there, and we're going to pop that there, and we're going to fill in some of this area with the molds, but I'm wanting to add just a little bit more interest to the piece. So I have got, there we are, we'll just stick that up into there, and I've picked the rose gold stencil paste, glaze paste, because that will dry semi-translucent and will allow me to see the things below. And I definitely want that out of the way. This is a well-loved, very old stencil from Stamperia. Well, they don't do these anymore, but it's just going to add a bit more interest into some of the areas and will help blend some of the edges that would otherwise be visible. And you think, you did all that work, you've made a nice background, and now you're covering it all up. But really, it's all about the layers, it's all about the details. There we are. We don't need it every which way. So let me just hoik that round there. There we are, stick that down there. And I'm going to wrap that in a wipe so that it doesn't ruin the stencil. Now, as you can see, it's a well-loved stencil. So just that over there. So that can sit there, that can sit there. Those can come over there. They're still wet. There we are. So we'll just give these a go. We've not got a massive more painting to do, but we do have some leaves that need to be painted. And then we've got an assortment of faux florals lurking around. So that's good. I think there's quite a few people that posted with offers on at the moment, so this is also good. I don't want this to bubble. That's the only risk of taking a heat gun to the glaze paste, that if you're not very careful, you will bubble stuff. Yeah. And I ummed and ahed about adding some shimmer and some silk glazes and the pearl cream white, and then decided that I was going shabby rather than overtly shiny. Just give that little interest. So we're just building our layers and our details and mixing our colours. As we go, and there we are. I think it must be tea time for a lot of people because our viewing numbers have disappeared down. But that's the joy, isn't it, of the lives. People can come back if they want to. So earlier on, I said that there were lots of vintage colours, and I'd used the vintage brown. This is the vintage. This is actually country green, which sits on the vintage end of the spectrum. There we are. So it's a soft bluey grey green, I guess is the best way of describing it. We'll just have that. And I'm not using any of my antiquing mediums today, so I'm needing to be just a little bit more careful with the painting, so that I don't, because I use the antiquing mediums quite often to fill in areas and to blur the boundaries between colours. Because I'm not using those tonight, I'm going to have to be just a little bit more careful with the painting, not excessively so. It's a small area, we're not going to add lots of different colours. We're going to be settled with that. Let's come back and give this another bit of a dry. Clear some of this out of the way. We need to have some a little bit drier before we can start adding our extra pieces into it. There we are. Thank you, Betty. I think it is. I think stencils are a much underrated tool and worth the money you spend on them. And my philosophy for the stencils is again the same as it is for molds, is have a look at them. If it's overly specific in theme, you might not use it very often. If you absolutely love it and you're only going to be happy to only use it once or twice, then go ahead and buy it. But if it's something that you think that may only be a one project wonder, think twice. It's a lot of plastic in the stencils, and if we're not using them frequently, then we are ultimately not going to be helping the landfill situation on the plastic waste. And there's my pep talk for the day out done with. Just going to have to be patient. Patience is not my middle name. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. Let's see if we can pull this together while some of that paste is drying. Doesn't take forever. There we are. I'll give that a little bit longer. So again, you won't see me use this wax very often, but this is the rose gold metallic wax, and it's just going to add a little bit of a sheen. It's a very different, to me it's more of a pink than a rose gold, but it's just going to add a little bit of shine to those. I'm going to add that. Just picking up, there's lots of texture in these roses, so that's what I'm aiming to pick up, just the texture in the surface of that. I don't particularly want the rose gold on the leaves, so I have this sort of muddy dirty green, which is turtle green, and I can add that now onto those leaves, and it will just add a little bit extra depth in the detail and a little bit of extra color variation. So that's going on to there, and let's wipe my fingers so I don't cross contaminate. Believe it or not, this is the first pot of Pentart gold wax that I ever had, so that has been opened and used by me for 5+ years. So I'm just going to go around the edge. I want the word to stay in the brown. But yeah. And let's just add just a little bit of this around the edges of this. I love the waxes too. They are very usable. There we are. We'll just add that into there. I'm not going to pop it onto the letters, but I am going to pop it onto the inner frame, so it's on the outside. Let's pop it onto the underline from there. So right, eeny meeny miny, let's see if we put the heat gun on whether glue gun will dry warm up quickly enough. It may or may not, but again, that's not too big a problem. So let's just have a little wipe down and let's clear some of this space so it's not so distracting whilst that can go out of the way, that can go out of the way. Don't need those scraps of rice paper. So that is going to go approximately there. So let us grab some heavy body gel. Yeah, absolutely. And I use my waxes a lot. I do have others that are open. It has to be, in all fairness, but There we are. So let's just add some heavy body gel matte. I use matte because and then wipe it off because I don't like the glossy, because you still have to wipe it off. So if you're going to wipe off one, you might as well wipe off the other too. So there we are. Let's leave that. So we've got our little dove looking at that, and we're reasonably central in terms of the word love, because that's my OCD. I do have a little bit, and that one is going to go on there, and that one is going to tuck there. So love, you and me better together. And if I just put those onto there, you could, with a minimalist project, finish it just like that. Just bear with, because some of this is still too wet for me to carry on adding the extra bits that I want to add. Still disturb too much around here. I know that's going to cover. There we are. Actually, we are now almost there. So I'm going to pop that there. So that's obviously wonky, unstable, and that's reasonably stable. And I have some of my embellishments, and then I've got some extra bits and pieces. So I know that I have a little piece of chipboard here. Let me just add some little bits of glue onto there, and I'm just going to pop that onto there because that's where I want that little bit. Enjoy, darling, enjoy. And then that will sit over there. Okay. So we have some more bits and pieces. So these are Stamperia Texturi boards. So I'm going to have, and I'm happy for it to hang off the end of my off the edge of my board. It doesn't have to all be on. Enjoy your walk, Anthony. So there we are. That can sit tucked neatly underneath there. Let me just add. I'm going to pop that as an added detail just down onto the base of there. There we are. And I happen to know that I want to have this piece just poking out from there, so that can sit into there. We'll tuck that up there. We're going to add some more bits anyway. Okay, so that is reasonably well behaved sitting there. So let's just take a glob of that, pop that into there. It'll fill in the spaces, and that will help stabilize that. And that's stabilizing onto there. I don't want that covering the love. And I'm going to pop that one underneath, and I'm going to deliberately set it off because I want to hang some ribbons, I think, underneath there. I might not. So I'm going to leave that for the moment because I have a plan, but it doesn't necessarily mean, of course, that it will all pan together. So that rose can sit in there, and that rose can sit tucked under there. So let me just tuck that one. And again, I'm not worried about them coming off the page, so to speak. So that is going to help to stabilize that piece there, and that will help to stabilize this piece as well. So that's going to go into there. And I think I had them, yeah, just like that. There we are. So that can sit there. That can sit there. And now we can add a glob of that across there and into these corners. Hopefully it'll then all catch over time. Let's get rid of the excess off there. So that is now semi-supported. Let's just straighten that. Excellent. So we have some more bits of this, which we're going to break up. So that's got some gel medium. Let's just tap some gel medium over the back of that, and we're going to tuck that piece into there. Again, it can be partly hanging off. Did I put gel medium? You see, I didn't put any gel medium on that bit. You know, always adds to the fun of what we're doing when you don't put your gel medium on to hold stuff into place. There we are. Okie dokie. Oh, she says, pulling that piece off. So that, I think, is going to sit. Ultimately, we're going to tuck that in a minute. So I have some florals that I'm going to want to add, and I've deliberately chosen, you know, a whole mix of different ones. And of course, typically now, this isn't going to come together in the way that I had first envisaged it, because I've moved my placement quite a lot. So bear with while we just have a little bit of fun. I like that into there. I quite like that into there, and I actually quite like that into there. And I might not put my ribbons on now because that's sitting there quite nicely, but I could actually tuck them underneath into there, and then tuck. See, that looks quite pretty then, I think. So let me see if my glue gun is now heated up enough. Oh, I like it when a plan comes together. So I can. So this is just some ribbons. I'm going to tuck those deliberately onto the edge of there. I've got my little bows. They can go there. I can pick up that and I can squish it into place with that. And I can pop that into there. So that's sitting quite nicely. I did have a very big floral, and I'm not too sure that I actually want to use that now because I think it's just too big. But I've got some pretty small ones. So, and if Sarah, if you are on in the UK, these do come from Dawn Bibby. There we are. Let's just move you. Right. Oh, sorry for making you see sit. That's never wasn't quite the intention. So let's just pop some of these smaller ones in. There we are. So I quite like that. I quite like that. I'll pop that into there. And we're going to pop a little bit of greenery, because leaves come with greenery, and that can sit into there. And we're going to tuck another bit of the greenery into there. And this is when you don't want to burn your fingers and say something very rude, much as I might be very tempted to do so. So that piece can now get rid of the string. I can shuffle that into there. And I've got some tiny, tiny little hydrangea threads. So I'm just going to shove that into there. And by cupping it together, it's taking up a smaller volume of space, but it's allowing me to just tuck these extra bits in for additional details into the piece. And that's just the way I like to build my projects together. And I'm adding a shabby purpley browny colour in these and some mixed colours. So those are working in there into that piece. And I'm conscious that I've got some bits here and I might want to add just a little bit more into this piece. So there we are. Let's just take a chunk of the end of that, pop that out of the way. That piece can go there. And then I can pop that into there. So we'll pop that into there. And we'll, there we are. Grab another glue stick. And pop that into there. I think I might now want to add that just into there for some, well, maybe not when I break off the end of it, but hey ho, let's just take off some of these. There we are. We can tuck that underneath there. That will work quite nicely. And we've got another end that will work quite nicely. So we can pop that, I think, into there. I'm conscious I've got another flower, but I think this is too big, but I might want that leaf to tuck in, because I'm thinking that that might again look quite nice just sitting on top. So I'm linking all of my layers together as I go, and there we are. That piece can go into there. Tuck that into there. Cool. So that's now, so we've got some greenery over here, but I'm conscious we haven't got greenery over here to balance. So there we are. So I'm just going to stick that piece of greenery in underneath there and go in and above. We'll tuck this piece in because we didn't glue that, we just popped it into place. And then we need to add just a few more of these little hydrangeas, I think. Just need to come in to build our composition. So that can tuck into there. I'm going to tuck that just underneath there to build that height. So I'm forming a sort of L or a J. I've got an empty space here that I want to cover in. So that piece can go into there. There we are. Let's just add a little hot glue and break that at the same time. Why not? There we are. Goody, goody. And then we have some spiky bits. So we can add just a few more bits, just additional details. And I know that might seem, you know, they might seem like little bits and pieces, but to me, these really start to alter our projects up, and, you know, again, help build our layers and our interests and our detail, so that everything isn't all completely flat. And that's what the florists do when they're making. They see what they've got, and then they add lots of different bits, the different colours, the different shades, the different shapes, and each little piece just changes how the piece feels. So I think that might actually work nicely tucked into there. It fills that gap for me. Yeah. And you could use these with gel medium. It's not going to get moved about too very much. There we are. So that can go. Just shuffle that in a little bit further. There we are. Nothing like being pedantic, is there, and wanting it just so. And then we can add, let me add, I think we'll add another spiky bit underneath there. There we are. Let's see what we've got lurking. We've got lots of bits lurking, because why wouldn't you have lots of bits lurking? There we are. You can go under there. So I can just lift that flower up and tuck the glue out of sight. So that's coming underneath there. And I want to add, I think we're going to tuck into here. Yeah, a little bit of the more berry-like stuff. That can go into there. So all of the layers are there. They're all poking their way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 will work, won't it? 5's not too bad. We do have another piece. I'm thinking that might actually work quite nicely there. Just fills in that space a little bit. There we are. Do I want to add? That becomes too big a piece from there. And minus some greenery over here. I haven't got the bird. I've already covered him. So actually, that doesn't matter. So let me just put a good blob of that there. We'll stick you into there. We'll stick you into there and give you a little area. Let's just flick that leaf out and open. From there, glue sticks every which way. There we are. And let's just have a play. Because as I say, my original intention had been to use one of these big molds, but actually I didn't think it worked very well. But that's going to fill in there and look nice. There we are. So, get rid of all of these bits of that. There we are. Okay. So I'm quite happy with that. I think it looks quite pretty. It's quite feminine. It says what I want it to do. Hello, Glynis. Welcome, my darling. Welcome. There we are. And then let's just take a little bit of what we got lurking over there. Actually going to, and I know I haven't, because I've got the white of the texture of the chipboard, I'm just going to take some of this, find a suitably rough, nasty brush. That one will do. Actually, I know what's going to be easy. Excuse me for doing that. There we are. Let's just soften some of this down. What did I do with that white that I carefully opened and then put back over there? Thank you. There we are. So I'm just going to add. There we are. Just add by adding this, it sort of mutes down some of the white pieces, softens in, just adds and if we're wanting, we can add some splatters. So let's just pop that in there. And deliberately don't want to add really dark splatters onto this because it wouldn't work with the whole project. It's a very muted, very soft, very shabby. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, Beverly, for joining us, my darling. Thank you very much. There we are. This is a suitably scrappy brush. Will hold a fair amount. And these will subtly link all of these layers together. She says, subtly linking, having slopped a great big dollop of white paint there. But there we are. Link everything all into one place. There. So let's just clear this out of the way. Pop that out of the way before I burn myself. Give that a little wipe. And then we've got a clear area. There we are. Let me just pop that up out of the way. So there we are, ladies. We have Love, You and Me, Better Together. And hopefully those are reasonably straight. I know that that's on with gel medium, so you can see how well that's already set. But we've got a project that I hope would work for a wedding. would work for a special anniversary. Is a timeless piece. So that is all for tonight. I hope that that's been helpful. I am live on my own page on Sunday. I have a very different project planned, and I am also I will be back for Pentart next Tuesday at the same time. So I hope to see some of you then. Bye.